I am your host, Carrie Scollin, giving us different perspectives on where we are and where we want to go on our journey. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to spending some time with you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session of the Founder Series. I'm your host, Carrie Scollin. I am, once again, very excited. I absolutely love the women that are coming into my community, and I get to share with you. So I would love to introduce Kate Toye. She is a self-compassion coach. She lives in BC. She does work virtually around the world, I'm pretty sure. And we are diving in today, and it's really about untethering yourself, finding freedom within yourself, knowing that you're worth the work. I absolutely am thrilled that I was introduced to Kate by another friend. And you know what? Sometimes those are just the best referrals. I absolutely love it. I love everything that you stand for from what I've learned about you and what you do. So Kate, welcome to the show. I am so happy that you're here.
Oh, thank you so much, Carrie. And I too am so grateful for our mutual acquaintance that introduced us. And I absolutely love what you're doing in this world, and the ripple that you are rippling through people is incredible. I'm very grateful for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's what starts to happen when you do this work, right? Your world expands, your circle expands, and all of these incredible people start showing up. I think probably because I was ready for someone like you to show up. You know, sometimes we don't think there's any hope. There's a lot of people that just don't know where to go, don't know where to turn, and they're searching and searching and searching. But sometimes when you just take a step back and, you know, give yourself some grace and some compassion, that's when things start to show up. So I would love to know more about you. I know that you are certified in so many things. We've got integrative somatic parts, internal family systems informed, mindfulness, intuitive life coach, compassionate inquiry practitioner, developed by Gabor Mate, which is that in itself. I think you could spend your whole lifetime doing that, couldn't you? Yeah. Compassionate inquiry, like, wow. So, I'm going to let you talk. Let us know how you got into this, what you do, and how you help people.
Wow, Carrie, thank you so much. I I think that I always knew I wanted to work. Well, I don't think I know. I always wanted to work with trauma from a super young age. And I also grew up in a time that it was what is wrong with you, or that you are broken, or are you that broken? And that wasn't the mind. I already had that. I already thought I was broken. I already thought there was something fundamentally wrong with me. That's what I've really learned about shame. Shame is that there is something fundamentally wrong with me, whereas opposed to guilt, which says, I did something wrong. And I realized I was really living in shame. And I remember by the time I was 13, I had started meditating at 11, and really that saved my life.
That's amazing.
I was so aware it saved my life. And I remember at 13, things were still kind of shit. And I remember hearing just like this awareness that this will not all be for naught. And it kind of like, it brings tears up. And it really kept me, I think, here as well. And meditation really connected me to something bigger than. Right. There's something bigger than. Yeah. And so, so as I journeyed along, and, here's your road, and you go off on courses, and you take different routes, and, but wherever I backpacked for about 6 years. I lived in some phenomenal places. I owned a cafe in Ontario. Like, I've had phenomenal, fun experiences that I'm so grateful for. And no matter where I found myself in the world, the first one is, John Kabat-Zinn, wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
So you can run from yourself from a while, but yourself's going to catch up.
Yeah. It always catches up. It's like, darn it, there you are again. Thought I got away from you. Yes. So I think a lot of us have felt that.
And also what I was really aware of from as long back, my parents bought a small business when I was 3, and they owned it for 28 years. And what I'm so aware of my whole life, people would come to me and just tell me their stories. From like 5 years old, I remember this, 5, 6, like my whole life. I'm the person that if I sit down in a space, people are telling me, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm super grateful for. Mm-hmm. And also there comes a time where you're like, what am I to do with this?
Right.
And my own unhealed childhood wounding, if one of my things are like, it's your responsibility to fix others, or you're looking for external validation, or you're codependent, or you're a people pleaser, or, the bag of things that come with that,
yeah,
it can feel really heavy, like it's on you to somehow come up with a solution or offer advice.
Right.
Right. And
people were coming to you for that.
Right. And I have no idea what is right for you.
Right.
Because I don't know you. You and I could live the exact same experience, and it's going to be totally different for you than it is for me. Yeah. And so what I love about the modalities that I've learned now, compassionate inquiry, internal family systems, it's not on me, right? I can offer space. I can offer place. I can offer questions. I can offer, it's just such a beautiful way of I'm always curious about the person in front of me, and I totally trust that person knows themselves better than anybody. And in that space, people come to this beautiful realization about themselves.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes they just need, like you said, sometimes they just need the right question, right? To get them thinking in a different,
right.
Or next to that. Yeah. The thought. Yeah.
And what I love about this work, it's called like the new lens of trauma, right? Mm-hmm. It's like the work of Gabor Mate, Richard Swartz, Peter Levine. And really it's, 10, 20, 30, 40 years old, really. Mm-hmm. However, it's, I would say, like coming more mainstream. And I'm not sure if that's true or if it's what you look for, you see. Right. So I don't know if that's so much of my world that I feel that everybody knows it, or if it is getting more. But I do feel there's this movement in our world of people coming alongside of understanding, what happened to me versus what's wrong with me. Yes. And in the space of what happened to me, can I get curious about that?
Mm-hmm. And that's such a big piece, right? The curiosity piece. And I think we've come a long way as well. I mean, some people say we haven't come very far. Others say we've come way further. But I think a lot of that is because people are willing to talk about it, have conversations that help other people, but also just open their world a little bit more, that there are so many different modalities, and one you may have tried that doesn't work for you, but it's finding which one does, right? Mm-hmm. People are just more, I think we're just more willing to share if we have something that's worked for us, or we've seen, or there's that little bit of hope that there's something out there for you. You don't have to stay where you are if you choose that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And also what I've become aware of, and this could just be my truth, but me at different times on my journey, I needed different modalities, right? And also if I'm a multifaceted being, right? And then there's my spiritual part, there's my emotional part, my mental part, my physical part, all of those parts of me, maybe they need something different, right? Like the part of me that needed meditation and still does, the part of me that at a time loved to journal, the part of me at a time that was a runner, right? Like all of those things came into play in a way that supported a part of me. And then maybe that part like integrated. And now there's these other parts that are ready for a different kind of healing.
I love that. When you were talking there, what came to me was like an honoring and an acknowledgement of all of our different parts. And I think I remember that part of our conversation we had before. It was like allowing that part to come through and letting it be seen by you, like by us.
Yes.
And giving it some time, giving it some space. Like, I know there's a lot of talk about healing the inner child. And I haven't dove into that very much, but I hear it. I know. I hear it quite a bit, but that is almost like that little girl that may have needed something, or feels a certain way because of something. It's just like, give her your attention for like just for a moment. Let her have her voice. And there's something that just resonates so deeply with me, when you talk like that. Like, give that little girl some space. Just give her a moment to be what we all long for, is to be seen, to be heard. Like, that's what we want. But it has to start with us. We need to see ourselves.
I got goosebumps as you were speaking, because to me, that's truth. And to me, that's been the fun. Like, I've been on the healing journey for decades and decades. And I would say that the way that compassionate inquiry works, the way that internal family systems works, understanding what's happening through your body somatically, like where I am now in my learnings, has just absolutely condensed time, and has like, I don't know if the word's extrapolated, but my healing has just like, it's just like, it's speeded up so rapidly. I'm such a fundamentally different person.
Right.
And the way that I am with my kids is so different. The way that I am with my parents is so different. And the way that I am with my partner, like, I think we've been together something like 27 years, and we really like each other, right? Like, we really like each other, and we understand when it's, oh, that's mine. That's my stuff. Right. And so, like, I love when you talk about the inner child, all the work that I do really goes back to the little person. But there's like, quote, inner child work, which I think is quite different than just seeing where it might feel the same. But the way that I work is like, say that there's something that you think of yourself, and you'll find like a statement comes with that, right? Like, well, I just didn't feel that they validated me. Or I felt I wasn't heard. And then, those really aren't feelings. Those are what you're not feeling.
Right? Oh my gosh, I've never heard it said like that. You internalize it as a feeling, but it's what you didn't receive. Oh, wow. That was a light bulb moment there for me. Wow. Yeah.
Right? And we live in a culture where it's a lot safer to talk about what we're not feeling as opposed to what we actually are feeling.
Right.
I do workshops. I'm so grateful. I get to do workshops like in many locations and many places, and I travel, and it's so beautiful when, we share things like this and you just see the penny drop in the room. And it's so glorious to see people soften to themselves, right? To have this, like, a little bit of softening to self, a little bit more love to self, a little bit of, oh, what could self-compassion look like? I know for me, I really was afraid to let go of my inner critic. I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't know what I could be without it. And then it was like, who's going to get work done? Who's going to be the driver? That's my motivation. Like, I was so attached to it. I didn't know who I could be without it.
Wow. And that becomes a comfortable feeling, right? That's
it's familiar.
Yeah.
Right? How many times is it familiar? The feeling is familiar. Like, that's the real gift, right? Like, if you're in a space with somebody, and for example, if I'm with someone, and for me, there was this situation where I would be with someone that I had to work with, and they'd like shake their finger at me, and they'd say things like, shame on you. And I felt my body getting really small, and my hands would get clammy, and I couldn't get words from my head to my mouth. And I wasn't sure if I was getting small, if they were getting bigger. But if we just like take a step over here and give that a different lens. So look at what's happening. I'm getting smaller.
Yeah.
So how familiar is this? Why am I getting smaller? Probably because I feel like a child. Yeah. Right? My hands are sweating. I can't get words to my mouth. So maybe what's going on is even pre-verbal.
Right.
Right? Maybe this is so old, it's pre-verbal.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I have this pre-verbal energy, familiarity taking over in this space, and I'm not my grown adult self.
Unbelievable. And I'm trying to understand it, but not really, because I don't think we have to understand everything. But what it felt like was from pre-verbal, like those emotions are stored in our bodies, right? So we may not know what it actually was, but we can recognize the feeling we're getting in our body.
Right.
And so we're really pulling up a memory of a feeling, maybe not the incident.
Right. And the difference between my head, I'm feeling like, that's why I love somatic work. It's so, Peter Levine is so brilliant. And just like, where do you feel that? Because that's what I said. Where do you feel that in your body? And I might say like, oh my God, there's this tension in my throat, or there's this big lump in my stomach. And then is that a familiar, like, is that a new feeling? Oh no, I feel this lump every time XYZ. Okay, so if it's every time, then we can know it's not about the person in front of me who's shaking their finger at me. Right. This is so familiar. It goes all the way back.
Right. Okay. So that, I mean, that in itself is bringing up for me, sometimes there can be a sense of overwhelm when we think, do we have to go back and
relive,
in quotation marks, every single thing that experienced us positively or negatively? And I know that can't be the case, because we would all just stop because it's just overwhelming. But I do believe that's part of our journey, is getting curious and starting to understand, but working from what you have and just learning along the way of how to not manage, probably isn't the right word, but how to come to that place of forgiveness or acceptance and move from that compassionate place of who we are, and having that grace for ourselves. So when you talk about that small child and those things that come up, and we automatically look at the person who's pointing at us, right? Like shaking the finger at you. And then it seems like it's all that, just turn it around, because it's about you, right? Like to start connecting again. I think that's a big piece that we've lost, is that connection with ourselves.
Right.
And so I would love to know how you help people who come to you. Is it a series of questions and then you kind of work through that with them, or just hold that space and then ask another one to help them get a little bit deeper? Like, can you help me kind of understand, for someone to come to you, or like in a group setting, because I love this, and I definitely we need to do something, because I need to get you out there. You're already out there. I mean, I need to get you out there to my people, because I think it's just, you can tell your energy comes from such a beautiful place of just wanting people to get where they want to be.
Oh, right? God.
That's all it is.
There's so much freedom. I never, ever, ever thought I could feel so free.
Yeah. I wrote something down from your website. It was a quote that you have up there, which I have recently realized that I've done. And in writing the book that we just put out, that's a piece of my story. But it says, the freedom to be yourself is a gift only you can give yourself. But once you do, no one can take it away. By Doe Zentamata. And it's so true. Like, you talk about freedom, and that's the freedom I had, was, I'm okay to just be me. Like, there's a lot of freedom in that. I don't have to be or do or to have, or I don't, as long as I'm being who I am, the freedom that comes with that. There was just, I felt like so much was just swept away off my shoulders, but nobody could give that to me.
Right.
And I think that's where part of the work is.
Yeah, that is the work, right? And I love to say, you're worth the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really honor everybody's on their own timeline.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of crappy that you can't heal for other people.
Yeah. That'd be great,
right?
wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But yes and no, because so much of coming back to yourself and coming back to loving yourself and coming back to understanding yourself and coming back to understanding why you did whatever, right? Without shame, blame, guilt, just this understanding of, oh my God, I really was doing the best I could with what I had. Yes. I just have such different eyes now into what I thought I had. But when I go back and really sit, in that 20-year-old Kate, that 20-year-old Carrie, that, she really was doing the best she could with what she had, even though in hindsight, those might look like really bad decisions in my case. Right?
Yeah. Oh, mine too.
Yeah. And you said this beautiful thing there about, I wish I could, about something about going back and oh, you said like when the person's shaking their finger at you, you realize it's all about you. And that's kind of like the double-edged sword, because there's this part of you that if you aren't in a space of being able to be self-compassionate or understanding yourself, or even that inquiry, it could be like, oh my God, what, why do I feel this?
Right.
And I remember coming home and saying to my husband, I'm like, this is really getting to me. Like, I got to understand what's going on when she does this happens.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, but she kind of rubs everybody the wrong way, Kate. And I was like, I don't care, because it isn't about her. It's about what's happening inside of me. And that's what I have to get curious about.
Yes.
Because I felt powerless. I felt that she had all this power over me. And that too was a very familiar feeling. Right. So how do I get to this place of how can I understand what that is all about? And our heads are so beautiful, right? A lot of us think that we are our heads and that we only exist here. And this is just, right. This is just a beautiful tool. This is a beautiful part of us.
Yes.
And it also says things like, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe it only happened once.
Oh,
maybe,
yes.
right?
Yes, I've heard that a ton. I've said that.
Other people have it worse.
Yep.
Right? Like all the comparison, shame, blame, like that comes from here, right? And then when we drop down into here, this tells us a very different story, right? This might not even have like a memory, but oh my God, that feeling in my stomach, that is so familiar.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's get curious about that. So that's how I would work with people.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what you feel in your body? And it might be like, I feel this in my stomach. Can you explain to me what that feels like? If that feels safe to do so, because sometimes it doesn't feel safe to do so. Right. And if there's the ability to get curious about what this feels like, when we really can get curious about that feeling, it's like this whole, it blows my mind that every time someone will be like, oh my God, I'm remembering this thing that I haven't even thought, I didn't even, I haven't thought about this forever.
Yeah.
Or I even forgot that this happened.
Yeah.
Or, there was this time, or I'm seeing myself and I'm like 5 and I'm alone in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And my understanding of like the original trauma is not being seen, not being heard in your reality, not being validated. Right? As a small child, those things, and those happen all the time, unknowingly to us as the big people that might be raising our kids, because it probably happened to us.
Right. And they were doing the best.
They were doing the best they could. There's no fingers to point, because everybody was raised by somebody who was raised by somebody who was raised by somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
And the truth is they were all doing the best they could with what they had.
Yeah. Can you give me a little bit, or just even your opinion on generational trauma? So that's been passed down, like you said, it can be. So there's times where we don't even know. We will not know where that actually came from.
Right.
And the reason that I bring that up is because this can be really scary for people. And I know it was very scary for me. when well, for one thing, I didn't want to think about it. But I always had this niggling, there's something like what's going on here? Something there's more, or something's missing, or I don't like the way that feels in my body, but I couldn't pinpoint it. So it was like, okay, I'm just gonna not think about that, because sometimes let's just not rock the boat. Let's just not uncover that little piece there, because my life is pretty good. Like, why do I don't want to go searching for things. So that's kind of where I was. I'm like, yeah, I know there's something there, but I'm just going to put that aside. And then what I did was I completely distracted myself so that I didn't have to.
Right.
So my protecting was distraction.
Beautiful, right? Beautiful coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Right. And a part of you doing what it can to keep you safe.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I love this idea of parts, right? Even the parts that this part that distracts, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can distract us to the point of, I'm not getting anything done and I'm sitting here watching Netflix for a day.
Yeah.
But if we can get curious and understand that part that distracts.
Why I'm distracting myself.
It's doing what it knows how to do to keep you safe from something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, what could this thing be keeping me safe from? But when you start to get curious and we can talk to those parts, mm-hmm. they are so brilliant at what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And they've been probably doing what they've been doing for so long in some way, shape, or form, mm-hmm. that they might not even realize that you've grown.
Yeah, and don't need that part anymore.
And you need it, but you need it to be doing something different.
Right.
Right. So no parts have to be anywhere. All parts are welcome.
Right. Right.
And what would they rather be doing than mm-hmm. this thing that is keeping me trapped, stuck, blocked, shamed, blamed?
Yeah. So that piece, you can honor that it served you for what that piece of you was serving you. And now it's almost like giving that piece of you permission to start serving in a different way.
Mm-hmm. And what's so cool, like that's the work of Richard Swartz. I love this internal family systems. I think I've been learning it for a couple of years now, and it's just so profound. Mm-hmm. And when you go and, for some people, it might be weird. Like I'm talking to this part that takes me down the like binges on Netflix. Right. But really when you can, through this work, right, you sit and you talk to that part and you listen to what that part wants to say. It is profound how hard our parts are working to keep us safe. Profound. Yeah. And that acknowledgement, and how many times do we shame or blame or shut that part up, or I don't want to see that? Yeah. And that part, all it wants is to be seen. Can't mm-hmm. you see how hard I'm working? Mm-hmm. Look at what I'm doing to keep the system safe. Yeah. And you could usually, right, there's that part, and then there's the other part that pulls, that's like, hey, we got to get stuff done. Right. And it's that back and forth push and pull that you'll feel inside yourself. And then this part might be like, what the hell's wrong? Well, it's actually not this part. It's another part that's like, what the hell's wrong with you? Yeah. Figure it out. Yeah. Right. And so it's like triangle. And I mean, sometimes I could be with somebody and 7, 8, 10 parts show up. Wow. Right. There's the part that does this. Then there's the part that says this. Then there's the part that says that judges this part for doing this mm-hmm. part. And then there's the part over here that judges this part for doing that. Right? So when you think of that, it's like there's conflict going on. Internal family systems, right? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's it's just so interesting to me. And I think I always like to try and simplify things, because that's how I work. I'm like, if something gets too complicated or overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, how do I just bring that to a simple? I need someone to simplify things for me so that I can kind of digest it a little. So what I'm hearing from this would be honoring the parts of you that you recognize, because we probably don't even recognize half of these parts, right? And is part of that getting quiet as well? Because getting quiet was something I completely avoided. Mm-hmm. Or being present, or right? Yeah. Like for me, I think my big shift was quite a few years ago, but I think my girl was maybe 5, my youngest, so a good 8 years ago. And I was really aware that I couldn't be present. Like I wanted it so bad. Like that's all that and there was definitely spaces that I could be present in, but with her talking, like I remember sitting at this table and she's telling me about her Polly Pocket or something, right?
Yeah.
And she's talking and I'm just like, oh my God, like I got emails, I've got a project that I got to do, I've got this that I got to, right? And I wanted this, but I couldn't have it. It was too much. It was, and I still don't know what that was about, but I know that I couldn't be present and I wanted it. And so that really started like, why can't you be present with your kid?
Right. And I think all of us have had an experience like that. Most of us. Yeah.
And I mean, there's times and space, but when it's like on any time she's right. And then I remember this shift, she started telling me about her Polly Pocket, and I was like genuinely interested. Like I could be here. And oh, well, what does that do? Oh, what? And that nagging, like, and maybe that was my perfectionist part or my performer part or the part that needed external validation or the part that was tied up in doing is being. Right? Like they're like, what are you producing? What are you getting done now? Like that part, right? And then I remember another time and I was standing and I was hanging my coat up and I don't know how many years ago this was. And I just said, this thought just came, do you unconditionally love your kids? And I would say, of course I unconditionally love my kids. And then this thought just kind of hung around and it said, do you unconditionally love your kids, or is it easier to love your kids when they're easy?
Absolutely.
It's easier to, and so are there conditions? Are your kids feeling conditions? Gabor says this beautiful thing where if a child has to choose between authenticity or attachment wins every single time.
So how do you mean?
Say it again.
Yeah.
So if a child, and I really think an adult with unhealed childhood wounds fits right in there as well.
Okay.
A child has to choose between attachment or authenticity. Attachment is going to win every single time. So what this could look like is a child is crying. The mom or dad or whom, the parent is not comfortable with that. Doesn't understand they're not comfortable with it, but something's going on in my body that's not cool. I got to get my kid from here to here.
Yeah.
So, hey, you don't want to make mommy upset, do you? Come on, dry your tears. Show me your smile. So that child, I can authentically be crying now, or I can choose attachment.
Right.
And it's not conscious.
Right.
I choose attachment to stay alive because that's how I stay alive.
Right.
Right. So I've chosen now, I can't be sad. I'm choosing to be happy.
For her or him or for somebody else to survive.
Right. And we think about how many times unknowingly we might do that in a day. So the check-in, when I was really, I'm very aware of how different it is now in my body, in my life, in my realm. And I wasn't a shit mom,
right.
Like I was doing the, like, right.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would just do check-ins. Kate, did you make your kids choose attachment over authenticity today?
Yeah. Wow.
And with compassion, okay, maybe you did, as opposed to, where once upon a time I remember at night being like, you suck. You've totally let these kids down. You don't deserve these kids. You don't deserve, you're doing this, and like just beating the crap out of myself.
Yeah. I remember that too. Some nights going to bed going, like, did I say anything nice to them today? Or if something were to happen to me, how are they going to remember me? Probably just stressed out, cranky, always telling them what to do. Like I remember moments I couldn't recognize it. I just beat myself up, like you said. I'm not being a good mom right now. But we all have moments of that.
Yeah. Or you suck, Kate, or oh my God, when are you going to get your shit together? Or you say that you want this, you're reading all the books. You're like, I was reading all the books. But now what I understand, it came like a I just love going into nature because that's where I get these like, right, these just downloads come, right?
Yeah.
And just this beautiful piece of grace just flowed down, and it was like, it didn't matter that I was reading all the books. I couldn't fundamentally get it because I wasn't there. It didn't matter. It was, I was reading it, made sense, logic. I'm in the moment. I'm losing my shit on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I'm yelling. I'm right. And then it's like a part of me is over here watching the yelling, saying, shut up, shut up, shut up. And my mouth's still going.
Yes.
And what a gross feel. Like I can feel that in my body, what that felt like, and such a gross feeling.
Yeah. Because that's not who we wanted to be in that moment.
No, and that's not who we are, really. That's not our authentic self. That's really my 5-year-old part, right? Probably my 5-year-old part that isn't seen or heard, doesn't realize. Like, I remember a part of me being like, God, these kids don't realize how hard I'm working to make it better for them than it was for me.
Right.
So that part's taken over, hijacking my system, driving the bus and yelling at these kids. Right. And it's so bizarre because you're working so hard so that it's totally different for your kids.
Yeah.
But then the part of you is like, why don't you see how different it is for you?
Exactly. Oh, that's why these stories need to come out, so that people don't feel so alone, that they're the only ones going through that, and there is a way through it.
Yes. Yes, 100%. And they say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And I was doing a lot of healing alone and doing healing with my person now, and different people. It just transcends time. Like it's so different because you weren't seen, heard, or validated. And to sit with somebody that, when someone tells me what happened and I can say, oh my God, that sounds horrible. Mm-hmm. How terrifying. Right. That may be the first time that anybody has ever said, wow, how terrifying. Right. And I don't offer a solution. I don't let's look on the bright side. It's just, you can be in this space and you can let all of that be seen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to circle back before our time's up. You talked about intergenerational trauma.
Yes. Yes.
And so I love the idea, we could even use this Zoom box, right? I love the idea of this shape, mm-hmm. like a paper. Let's say this, right? Yeah. And this is you here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then here's your parents.
Yeah.
And then here's their parents. Mm-hmm. And then here's their parents. And here's their parents. And you just think of how many people are on this.
Yes.
That made you.
Yes. Yeah.
Then when you draw a line this way, put the years that these people were on the planet.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And think of what was happening on the planet at that time, wherever they lived in the world.
Right.
Right. Extreme poverty, Black Plague, horrors, horrific wars. We know the history of Canada, residential schools, right. All of that.
Yes.
And where we're living, what DNA was getting created and changed and shifted, what mm-hmm. people were doing to survive, mm-hmm. right? What was going on? Now think of all those people. That's all rippling down into you.
Yeah.
Right. And trauma changes DNA. And I really want to acknowledge too, because I think it's so important, also the gifts, the mm-hmm. talents, the beauty, absolutely. The resilience, all of that also has rippled down to you.
Yes, because it's not just the bad stuff that was bad in quotations. I mean, I don't know if there's good or bad, but you're right. There's some amazing things that we received as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if you just think of a picture like that, mm-hmm. and if that is the gift that mm-hmm. you can give yourself as to, wow, I'm worth the work, or wow, can I get curious about me, because mm-hmm. look at where I've come from and what went on in their lives.
Yes. There's an incredible, I think it was Maya Angelou that said that. And she's like, I don't come as one, I stand as 10,000, or mm-hmm. not those exact words, but that was the sentiment of it, is I'm here, but look who I stand with, like those generations from it's such a visual for me that I use that. I use that when I'm speaking. I think about that. I'm like, I don't stand just as one person up here. I'm standing for all of those women who came before me.
And I can feel, like I feel them right now.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
at times I feel and see them. Like there's so many. And what I love about healing work is, we talk of 7 generations. Like that's my lineage as well. And but I don't see that as 7 generations ahead. I see that as I'm in the middle, right? And I'm healing for the generations on this side, the future generations. However, I'm also healing for my ancestors.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm healing for my ancestors.
Yeah.
They're like, time is really an illusion.
Yes.
And I believe in this vessel. It's finite, but I also am so aware that this energy and these beings, it's infinite.
Yeah. I think that's how I think too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. And I've said this before. It's like we as women, and men may feel the same way too. I can only talk for myself, but a lot of times we gather strength when we know it's going to help somebody else. And like as a mother, like there was some hard things that we do, but we know that our children are going to benefit from it. And I feel like this is something that I wanted to take on to heal the parts of me or acknowledge the parts of me. Exactly like you said, for previous, for future, and for right now. And if that's something that I can do to make a difference, I just think it's a gift that keeps on giving, for one thing, and something that we can give ourselves. And in the helping of ourselves and that self-compassion, look what you're doing. Like, and I guess that's why people like you are so passionate about the work, because they see the results. They see the kind of life that somebody can live by just knowing they're worth the work.
It's so beautiful. I'm so grateful because I get to see it real time as I'm working with people, and I also get to live it because I know how different it feels in my being. Like I am so different. Like I'm just a different being. And you said something about, healing for our kids. I think as women, and I too can only speak as a woman and a mom because I'm not a man or a dad.
Right.
But I'm aware it's different. I'm aware these people came through me. I'm just aware it's very different.
Yeah.
And I find that moms do everything for their kids, like really everything, right? I'll sacrifice everything for my kid. However, we don't necessarily see us doing our own work.
Right.
Yes. Or we do, but I will do this because of or for my kid.
Right.
Right.
And changes.
And if that's where you are, and if that's what it's going to take, right? I just want to offer that you get incredible benefits out of this lifetime now,
right?
When you do your own work, right? It also ripples through your kids and totally changing you're changing the trajectory of your kid's life.
Yes.
So if that's the little thing that you need to get curious about yourself,
yes.
However, you reap the benefits. Like
exactly. Yeah. Like sometimes it's just, that's all they need is to think, okay, this is going to benefit my daughter. I'm going to step in and do it.
Right.
But it totally benefits them. But sometimes you just need that little, like, because it's a selfish thing. I'm going to take this time and I'm going to work on myself, and then all the other shame and guilt and all that other stuff comes up. So sometimes it's just that if I know my daughter's going to benefit from this, I'm more willing to put my time in. And then you get in and you're like, oh, I'm really benefiting from this.
Right.
And if I benefit from it, everybody around me is going to benefit from it because I'm just more peaceful, whole, whatever that feeling is that you want. There's no doubt in my mind that every single person that you touch is benefiting from you doing what you need to do for yourself. Right. And it's not, well, call it a selfish act, call it whatever you want. It's worth it.
Oh my God, yes.
I just want everyone to know that there is something, some way, some modality, someone out there that if they're on that path of they know they want something different, I think that's what this whole founder series is about, is bringing women like you on that just gives them an opportunity to open their world a little bit and know that there's something that can, first step, someone they can listen to. I mean, for me, it was, yes, reading the books first. And then some of the podcasts started to come, and it was like, okay, you do what's comfortable for you in that moment, but sometimes we need to get uncomfortable too. And that's the part that's a little harder to take down.
Right? Like that's where I love the analogy of a crab, right? A crab has to leave their home for a bigger shell.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're molting, right, they're most vulnerable. There's nothing to protect them, but they're growing.
Yeah.
Right. And you mentioned books. I mean, I have a book.
Yeah.
I have a problem. Right. And this isn't even like my bookshelves. And books are brilliant. Like if that's where you are, get a book. My God, and what you were talking about, like moms, how we do. I just think of and I hear women say, well, I can't take that money away from the family to do X, Y, and Z. However, you pay for them to go to dance, you pay for them to go to, like all of those things.
Yep.
And not to say that's not lovely.
Right.
And if you can do that, that's beautiful.
Yep.
And doing your own work is going to change lives.
Yeah.
Like change lives.
And I've been there on the paying for the things, and then I would see something that was maybe 200 and something. I'm like, oh no, like I'm not going to do that. And then it was like, and I don't regret, right, spending that money on my kids. I'll do it again all over.
Exactly.
But when we turn it around and spend it on ourselves for something that, is not so obvious, right? Like it's all inside stuff. So we may not see benefits from it right away. And so there's something that's not tangible. It's not, I can't show you what I spent that $250 on, like there's some mind stuff going on in there too. And it's just like, that may be the best $250 you have ever spent.
100%.
And it's going to come back tenfold because of now what you're able to
100%.
see. So
I have 3 teens right now. And sometimes when I say that, people are like, oh my God. Right. And we are having the best time.
Yeah.
Like we are having the best time because I'm not all caught up in them representing me in the world.
Oh,
right.
That's a whole nother.
Right. But that all comes from our wounding.
Yeah.
That all comes from our wounding, and a part of us trying to, or maybe you have parents that like to tell you how you should be raising your kids. And then you fall into like, you feel like the kid when you're around your parents, when you're trying to raise your kids, right? This weird dynamic, or it's your younger part that's showing up and driving the bus when saying, God, I've been working so hard. Can't you see me? Right. It's not really our kid's job to see us. It's our kid's job to be a kid.
Yeah.
Right. And I find our society that really has that skewed where they think that at 18, a kid should know everything, be ready to go into the world and do it all.
Yes.
Right. And my God, their prefrontal cortex hasn't even developed till 26, 27.
Yeah.
And when you really know yourself, trust yourself, you make those decisions from authenticity.
Yes.
About your family, not from attachment.
Yes. And you're so much clearer when you have that. Right? Yeah. You're not in that fight, flight, all that stuff where you're making decisions from a place of not clear.
Fear, right?
Right? Yeah. It's fear, it's survival. I like what you said there about it's not our kids' job to see us. It's our job to see us. And they can witness that. Like, what a gift. Like, I think with the work that I'm doing now, yes, I look back and wish I could have done things differently when my kids were little. Now I don't want them to have to wait till they're 50 to know their worth.
Right.
So I feel like there's parts of me that I feel like I'm making up for lost time. Like, I'm like, okay, my girls see me and they see what I'm doing and they see that I'm scared and I'm doing it anyway. And they see that there's sometimes I don't have confidence, but I dig in and get it from somewhere because of the passion I have for helping other women. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing everything I can now for myself, knowing that there will be a ripple effect on my girls.
And they witness us, right? They watch.
They
Kids
do.
watch so much more than you would ever think.
They do.
It's not what you say, it's what you do.
Absolutely.
So I really also want to leave listeners not thinking like, because me, I've screwed my kids up, that thought, right? Oh, I've screwed my kids up. What I really, really, really want people to hear is that your kids don't ever want you to look at them with eyes of, oh my God, I screwed you up.
Right.
Ever. Right? I 100% believe you're doing the best that you could.
Yeah.
I also wanted to share, it's a huge thing for your kids to witness your journey as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were heading out the highway the other day because we try to go to the river at least once a week. And my 13-year-old, I said to her, it was just her and I in a vehicle. And I said, sometimes I wish I could go back. Just a part of me wishes I could go back knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
Just how that would look like to raise you, because I'm so grateful, right? And she said, I don't. And I said, what? And she's like, I don't. She's like, I wouldn't be who I was if I didn't have the experiences that I had, if I didn't have the upbringing that I had. And she's like, really, when you really start also from this place, looking at your past and your kids' past, there's so many beautiful moments.
Yeah.
There's so many good. There's so much good, right? That sometimes we could just dwell on what I didn't do.
Right.
And when you're in this place of self-compassion, you can sit in like, oh my God, and we did do this, and we did do this, and we have these memories, and look where we are now. Yes. And you can tell me anything and you feel safe. Like those are huge things. And our kids are always growing.
So right? True. That's so true. And what a beautiful reflection there on the inside of a 13-year-old daughter, and what you have obviously embodied because she's witnessed you.
And she can tell me anything.
And I've said that too, right? I wouldn't be who I am doing what I'm doing if I didn't go through all of that stuff. And when you can get to that place where I actually really love who I am, and I honor what I've gone through to get here, that's another freedom piece, right?
100%.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We are all doing the best we can.
We all are doing the best. I think it was Brene Brown that I read that, I don't know how many years ago. And in hindsight, I don't think I really believed it.
Right.
I had a lot of judgment. Like, you're telling me the person that does this is doing the best. You're telling me that a person that commits murder, you're telling me like all the things, right? Yeah. And now in this place that I am, with looking at a person and looking at their graph and looking at all of the things, I would bet you money they're doing the very best they can.
Yeah. In that moment, with what yes, all of those experiences, we just don't know what anybody has gone through.
Right. And when we can be self-compassionate with self,
yes,
it's such a different ballgame as to how you see the world.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. I've loved our conversation.
Ditto, Carrie. So grateful for you.
I thank you so much. Can you just let everybody know where they can find you? Or
yeah, you bet. I'm on Facebook, Kate Toye Self-Compassion Coach, Instagram, Kate Toye Self-Compassion Coach. My website's katetoye.com. I have a giveaway on there that I love to give, 7-step reset. And it's just like a little to come into self. And then you'll be hooked up to my newsletters. And I love to share resources in my newsletters. I love to share meditations. And I have a podcast as well called BS We Women Tell Ourselves that I'd love to have you on, Carrie.
Yes. Let's make that happen.
BS that women can tell themselves.
Oh, that's going to be a good episode. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Kate. I really appreciate you being on here and sharing your time with us and what you do for this world. You're making a difference, and I'm very proud to call you my friend. So
thank you, Carrie. Ditto, and you as well are rippling through this world and all your incredible women.
We're lucky, aren't we? Lucky. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.